Aloha and welcome to Kamaboko Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be looking at the planet Pluto in the sign of Aquarius and kind of using tarot to understand perhaps how the energies would affect you from the perspective of your rising sign. So I want to make sure I'm clear on that we will be doing each sign based on the rising sign. Therefore, it will, on a birth chart, really indicate which house system Pluto would be in for your respective rising sign. Before we jump into that, just a little bit of a very brief overview of the planet Pluto. It is the furthest planet in our solar system, and it's considered one of the generational planets. So it takes decades sometimes to move from one or move throughout one sign. So it's currently now in the sign of Aquarius. It'll be there for a few months before it goes back into the sign of Capricorn, and then fully being in Aquarius in, I believe, 2024, 2025. So we kind of get like a glimpse of what Pluto looks like in, again, that respective house with the perspective of your rising sign. So we're going to go ahead and look at that. Pluto can really intensify areas. It can talk about transformation in different areas. So let's kind of dive in a little bit more to see how that would affect each house system according to your rising sign. If you don't necessarily know your rising sign, there are many other there are many options out there for you to find your rising sign. You will need to know your birth date, location, and time of your birth to be able to do that. I did create a video, so you can definitely check that out as well, to really find your rising sign. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the sign of Aquarius, or rising sign, which will be in the first house. If you are an Aquarius rising, first house can represent the self, your body, your character, appearance. So a lot of intensification, perhaps, and maybe even transformation in regards to those aspects of the house. So just gonna go ahead and pull 5 cards for each sign, and I am using the Wildwood Tarot for this reading. So let's go ahead and see what we have here. So we have the 7 of Arrows, Insecurity, the 2 of Vessels, Attraction, the 9 of Vessels, Generosity, the 4 of Bows, Celebration, and the 3 of Arrows, Jealousy. So really interesting kind of energies here for the rising sign of Aquarius. It does seem like there's going to be a lot of perhaps self-reflection in a sense of who you are, what brings you happiness and joy. I am glad to see that the 9 of Vessels, Generosity, is showing up. The 9 of Vessels is synonymous to the 9 of Cups, which is all about fulfillment, happiness, things of that nature. So it is showing up in a really good, strong position here for you. And I do feel that a lot of the energies coming through with these cards, again, perhaps may have you reflect on kind of who you are as a person, who you are as an individual, what brings you happiness, what brings you joy. I do feel that the 2 of Vessels Attraction card coming up is very positive in a sense that there is someone in your life that will bring you a lot of stability, and I also would say happiness as well. This is someone that I feel that you can rely on in regards to their perhaps your foundation, your rock, that really kind of helps you go through or navigate these perhaps difficult energies here with the Seven of Arrows, insecurity, and the Three of Arrows, jealousy. And I wonder if it is talking about perhaps forgiveness. Again, maybe there was something in the past or something that has occurred to you, has surfaced up, that is bothersome, or really just causing you some of that anxiety that, as an Aquarius rising, perhaps maybe you don't necessarily experience a lot of. And for some reason, it is boiling up or bubbling up to your thoughts, to your mind, that I feel a lot of forgiveness and perhaps even patience, understanding is really going to be helpful for you during this particular time. And I feel that with the Two of Vessels attraction, the Nine of Vessels generosity, and the Four of Bows celebration, you're going to be able to overcome these difficulties and really celebrate perhaps this transformation of you coming out of a perhaps maybe darker period. And I feel it's really going to make you a stronger person overall. So, I really like this here for Aquarius risings. Again, Pluto would be in your first house, about self, your body, character, appearances, things like that. And I feel like this type of energy here is going to really help you become a much stronger, resilient individual. Kind of looking at the bottom card of the deck, you do have the Queen of Stones bear. I really like the Queen of Stones bear. This is someone that is extremely resourceful, turns nothing into something. And I do feel that with this type of energy here with the Queen of Stones bear, you really are going to be able to have that transformation of really utilizing the resources out there available to you to become a much stronger individual. So really like that here for the Aquarius risings. Just going to go ahead and shuffle the deck here. Again, we're going to move straight into the next sign. We're going to go to the second house, which is the house of finances, possessions, income, things like that. And this would then be the sign of Capricorn. So it seems like we're going kind of backwards in zodiacal order or reverse, but that is how it is kind of laying out, where Pluto would be in each respective house. So again, Pluto is going to be in the sign of Aquarius with Capricorn rising. That would put Pluto in your second house. So let's go ahead and see what we have here for you. You do have the Eight of Arrows struggle, the Eight of Stones skill, the Ace of Bows spark of life, the Three of Arrows jealousy, and the Sun of life. So the other thing about Pluto that perhaps I didn't mention is I do feel that Pluto does kind of draw upon Saturnian or Saturn energy, in a sense that these transformations can be difficult. And we kind of saw that in the sign of Aquarius with some difficult cards, one of them coming through with the Three of Arrows jealousy. But if you're able to overcome those difficulties, Pluto does reward you with benefit and great outcomes here, or beneficial outcomes. And with Pluto and Aquarius in the second house for Capricorn rising, I do see and feel some benefit, positivity coming out here, especially with the Sun of life coming through. But I feel like there's going to be mistakes made here, Capricorn. Previously Pluto was in your sign. It will be kind of moving back and forth in the sign of Capricorn. And you may have been experiencing self-transformation, perhaps an intensity of how you may come across. And that is kind of leading into the second house here of the kind of like the fruits of your labor here, kind of the cause and effect. How Pluto affected you in your first house is now showing up here in your second house. And it seems like there are still things that need to be remedied or fixed here. I feel like you are going to have some difficulties, some struggles. The Eight of Arrows struggle coming through, the Three of Arrows jealousy here coming through as well. And I feel that you really have put in a lot of effort and work. You do have the Eight of Stones skill. So it is that kind of going back and forth, like I mentioned, type of energy of getting a little bit of a taste of what Pluto and Aquarius would be for you. And then also Pluto going back into the sign of Capricorn or your sign. So you're kind of like having this, to me, it's kind of like this ebb and flow type of deal where you know that there's still a lot of hard work, dedication, and things that need to go into it. I feel like perhaps maybe many of you have started on some form of project, could definitely be related to yourself here with the Ace of Bows, Spark of Life. And the outcome or the goal is ultimate happiness, fulfillment, and joy with the Sun of Life showing up as well. And I feel like this is kind of unfinished business here. It's kind of the energy or the sense that I'm getting with these cards, especially knowing that you have put in a lot of time, effort, work, energy, and it still seems like there are a bunch of struggles that you're dealing with. And even though there are struggles, the Three of Arrows jealousy comes up, and really what this card talks about is forgiveness and understanding that you have put in the effort, the energy to do your best. And like I was talking about earlier, continuing on this path, really dedicating yourself to overcoming those difficulties. The Eight of Arrows struggle. I like this card because this lady is holding a lamp close to her heart. So there is something that you treasure here, Capricorn. And I feel that if you don't give up, Pluto will reward you with what you're aiming for here, what you've started, what you've been dedicated towards, and ultimately you will be achieving your goal. So I feel like the message here is to not give up here for you, Capricorn. And if it is related to possessions, if it is related to finances or income, I feel that if you're continuing to work hard, dedicate, overcome the difficulties, forgive yourself for perhaps any shortcomings, you will be able to achieve what it is that you're looking forward to. On the bottom, you do have the Seven of Vessels mourning, which I feel really does portray the picture here perfectly. It does perhaps look like maybe a difficult card here, but I do feel that the Seven of Vessels mourning is talking about you really stepping to the next level. Again, your Pluto is bouncing back and forth from your sign and into Aquarius. I feel this is talking about intuitively that you have pretty much moved away from your old self. This is your new self, and this is how you're moving forward. And in the background here, you can see that the sun is rising, which does talk about new beginnings, new journeys, new things that you're perhaps moving forward towards. And I feel that's really the message that's coming through for you, Capricorn Risings. So very good reading here for that. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to the third house, which is going to be Sagittarius Rising. Third house talks about siblings, short distance travel, communication as well. So for those that have Sagittarius Rising, you may feel that either the style that you communicate in may be different. maybe a little bit more intense. Could also talk about your siblings and perhaps transformation of your siblings. Also could definitely talk about, maybe now is the time for you to really go on many mini trips, mini vacations is kind of what I'm sensing here as well. But let's go ahead and see what we have here for you. So you do have the Three of Stones creativity, the Page of Vessels otter, the Ancestor, Nine of Arrows dedication, and the Seven of Arrows insecurity. So we're really starting to see kind of a trend or a theme pop up collectively here for everyone, with Pluto being in the sign of Aquarius. This is the second time that the Seven of Arrows insecurity has come up. We did have the Three of Arrows jealousy come up as well. So those could be kind of like underlying tones for the collective here. For Sagittarius Rising, though, I do feel that now is a good time for you to kind of step into this new pathway here. The Ancestor is coming up in a very strong position. The Ancestor represents you basically hearing the call that there is a new pathway forward to you or for you. And perhaps maybe this is something related to communication or your style of communicating. Maybe you have recognized that certain things or certain ways of communicating hasn't worked, and now you have experienced some things or some form of communication that has worked for you. Could be also related to maybe a connection with your family here as well, your siblings. Maybe there has been a disconnect before, and now it's kind of like a rekindling, if you will, of your family. So really like that as well too. The Page of Vessels otter also talks about someone that, or the energies of kind of being like a dreamer or a visionary, very intuitive type of energy as well. Also kind of talking about with the siblings here, the Page of Vessel otter also represents conflict resolution. So maybe there has been some quarrels with your siblings. Again, it could be anything related to the third house, communication style. Maybe you just didn't have the opportunities to go on multiple short travels or mini vacations, just kind of like maybe not necessarily locally, but not necessarily a very long foreign type of travel here. And maybe now it's time that you recognize and realize that this is important to you, and you're really going to be dedicated to being able to accomplish that, right? I do feel that even with the Seven of Arrows insecurity, I feel that the sign of Sagittarius is quite strong in a sense that I don't necessarily feel that you have insecurities. It's more of really just trying to plan out in a very strategic or methodical way of how you're going to accomplish these different tasks, goals, whatever it is that you're trying to work towards. And I feel that you're going to be thinking outside of the box as well with this. The Three of Stones creativity is coming up too for you. So maybe perhaps a different, again, style of communication or connection with your siblings, or experiencing different areas that you've always wanted to explore. Really being creative, I feel, is going to help you accomplish those things as well. So I really like this here for you, Sagittarius. Looking at the bottom, you also do have the Blasted Oak. So big change, transformation, I would say, for you. And I feel like you're recognizing here that you have perhaps limited yourself on branching out and really experiencing all of these different things in your life. And I feel that something has sparked within you, or an experience has happened where you now recognize and realize that these are important aspects for you. Again, related to the third house of communication, siblings, short travel, even school. It's typically kind of like younger education or schools, things like that. So perhaps if you do have children as well, that there could be something related to their school environment. But really, again, something has significantly changed that has put you on this different path, again, with the ancestor coming up. And I feel that you really are trying to be creative, find resolutions to the issues that arise, so that way you can really experience, your life in a very positive way. All right, so continuing on, we are going to be moving into the fourth house. Fourth house signifies the home, parents, family, the private life. So perhaps a significant change in regards to those aspects of the fourth house. With the fourth house, Pluto and Aquarius, we will be looking at Scorpio Rising. So this will be for Scorpio Rising with Pluto in your fourth house. So let's go ahead and see what we have here. All right, so you do have the Page of Vessels Otter, the Green Woman, the Queen of Arrows Swan, the King of Bows Adder, and the Two of Arrows Injustice card. So to me, kind of what I'm getting here for Scorpio Rising is, I do feel like there is some perhaps maybe power struggle or some imbalance here. You do have the Queen of Arrows Swan and the King of Bows Adder, very different and perhaps even opposing energies here. The King of Bows Adder represents being assertive, having the spotlight, kind of showcasing who you are, what you're capable of. And the Queen of Arrows Swan is the energy of looking for the good, moving on to a better place or greener pastures. So I do feel like there is some form of conflict here going on. It could be parental figures. Maybe there's some issues going on with that. There is, the fourth house does represent family, parents, the home life. So there could definitely be some imbalances here for Scorpio Rising. You do see the Two of Arrows Injustice card as well, which is synonymous to the Two of Swords in the traditional tarot, talking about really the importance of harmony and things being balanced. The nice thing though is you have, even though you have these kind of opposing energies here, you do have the Green Woman and the Two of Arrows Injustice card kind of surrounding them. Again, Two of Arrows Injustice really highlighting the importance of balance and harmony, or rebalancing things. And the Green Woman is the epitome of harmony and nurturing, growth, things of that nature. So I do feel that there are energies out there for you, Scorpio Rising, to really balance out the happenings here at home, or with your parents, or with your family here. You also do have the Page of Vessels Otter, which we talked about in the sign before you, or excuse me, after you with Sagittarius, on the importance of the Page of Vessels Otter representing conflict resolution, and being fair, um, and contemplating things with a considerate heart and serving with love. So I do feel like really good energy here to help offset perhaps the difficulties that I'm kind of sensing here with these two cards, or I would say three cards as well. So to me, it feels like the energy is talking about there will be some difficulties. And this is, again, the whole theme of Pluto in whatever sign it is and whatever respective house it is in, about the death of the old ways and the rebirth of new, much stronger, perhaps better ways. And it is that story arc that everyone experiences here, and you, perhaps Scorpio risings, may experience that more intensely in your fourth house relating to family, parents, and the home life. So it is that journey that all of us have to make. And I feel, again, that if you're able to harness these positive types of energy here that the universe is offering you, you will definitely be able to overcome those challenges. And you also have at the bottom the ancestor. So I feel like you're really going to have to tap into your Scorpio type of intuitive nature, in a sense that you are feeling that there is something off-putting, or something that is not necessarily balanced or well here, and you're taking that initiative, you're hearing the call to really remedy and rebalance again those challenges that you may be experiencing in the fourth house. And I feel that's why the ancestor is appearing to really call you towards this this new pathway of yours. So really like that here for Scorpio risings. The next house we're going to be looking at is going to be the fifth house, which represents or has significations of creativity, pleasure, and children. So let's go ahead and see. And that will be with Libra rising. So let's see what we have for Libra rising, I should say. All right, so you do have the Four of Stones protection, the Seven of Vessels mourning, the Mirror, the Blasted Oak, and the Green Man. All right. Majority of the cards that came up for you, Libra rising, are major arcanas. So a lot of external energy and influence, perhaps, related to you and your fifth house of creativity, pleasure, and children. So I feel like many of you are, I don't want to say stubborn, but that's kind of the feeling here that I'm getting, because you do have the Green Man here. The Green Man and the Mirror are both encompassing or surrounding the Blasted Oak here. And perhaps maybe with the Mirror, there was opportunities for you to really kind of reflect and contemplate, things going on in your life. Maybe perhaps there was a project that you started here that hasn't necessarily worked out the way that you wanted it to, and you're holding on to the hope that it'll eventually work out here for you. But you also have the Seven of Vessels mourning card, which talks about, in some sense, a death essentially of one part of your life. It could be, again, related to, for example, this project that perhaps you're working on. And I feel that with the Seven of Vessels morning card, it's difficult for you to really reflect and look back at what has caused this perhaps, I don't want to say failure, but shortcoming here for you. I feel that you really are protecting yourself, in a sense that you really wanted this to work out. But I feel like there has been something that has happened, or perhaps maybe happening here in the short future, that will really set you free, in a sense that you will now see clearly what it is that will and will not work here for you. And with the Green Man coming up, I feel like saying, using that energy that perhaps is causing some of that stubborn type of thought or holding on to, converting that into really kind of explosive type of energy to really initiate something else, something that you have been set on after experiencing this significant change or event. I feel like harnessing that energy and moving into that different direction is really going to set you apart and help you fulfill whatever it is that you were, I want to say, destined, to do. And I feel like the message here for you, Libra Rising, is that it's not that you've done anything wrong. It's more of the universe is now kind of almost, in a sense, teaching you this new pathway forward, or this giving you this experience, so that way you can learn from it and take that knowledge and really excel your future, the direction that perhaps the universe is kind of pushing you towards. And I don't feel like that's eliminating your autonomy or anything in that regards. I do feel that you will have the ability to make decisions. I just feel that the universe is telling you to kind of like be done with this pathway that perhaps isn't necessarily going anywhere, and look in a different direction that will bring you fulfillment, will bring you joy, will bring you that pleasure, tapping into your creative side as well. In regards to your children and whatnot, I don't necessarily feel very significant energies in regards to that. Perhaps maybe it is your children that are experiencing this blockade, or this change in direction here. And maybe perhaps maybe you are the mirror here, Libra Rising, for them, to kind of be that sounding board to help them reflect, analyze, and see which pathway forward they should, or perhaps need to be heading in. Looking at the bottom, you do have the Knight of Bows Fox. So really like that. This is very passionate type of energy here with the Knight of Bows Fox card. So perhaps maybe this is that energy that you need for your creative endeavors as well. Could also talk about utilizing play to be able to learn different approaches, different tactics, things of that nature. But it also does come with a warning here that, again, talking about that stubbornness, the Knight of Bows Fox represents that, if that determination, that almost, again, stubborn type of energy, if you continue pursuing that route, you perhaps will be successful, but it'll come at a personal cost. So understanding and recognizing that as well, I think, is important here for you Libra Risings. So really like that message here too. So moving on from the 5th house, we are going to be going to the 6th house. The 6th house, probably pronouncing that weird. represents illness, health, work, and subordinates. So the way that the sixth house and the 10th house differ, because the sixth house also talks about work, and the 10th house talks about career. I like to think of it as the sixth house are the daily things that you do in regards to work. If you are in a leadership position as well, dealing with subordinates or employees, whereas the 10th house is your career, and it's kind of like the showcasing. It's the accumulation of what you have dedicated your time, effort, and energy into. So with the sixth house, in regards to Pluto being an Aquarius, that will be Virgo risings. So let's go ahead and see what we have for that. Just going to shuffle the cards here. All right. So for Virgo rising, with Pluto and Aquarius in your sixth house, you do have the Woodward, the Eight of Vessels rebirth, balance, King of Vessels Heron, and the Two of Stones challenge. I actually really like this reading here for you Virgo risings, because I feel like there is going to be a lot of focus and intensity surrounding sixth house matters for you. Again, talking about work, health, employees, illness as well, kind of more like a physical illness here. But I feel like this is actually quite positive, at least the energies that are coming up here for you Virgo risings. So the Woodward is all about focus and identifying solutions to problems and issues that arise. And I feel like you are definitely going to be experiencing a bunch of challenges in regards to sixth house matters. But I feel like you are able and capable of finding those solutions, solving the problems, overcoming those challenges and barriers. There is that Stoic saying from Marcus Aurelius, the impediment to action advances action, what stands in the way becomes the way, or something like that, which basically means that even though there are obstacles and difficulties, that is the appropriate and proper path for you to take. And when you overcome those, you become a much stronger, resilient individual. And I feel like this is exactly what the Woodward and the Two of Stones challenge cards are talking about. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of harmony and a rebalancing of things here coming in for you. This will definitely cause a lot of, I feel, emotional stability and even maturity as well. I feel like you're going to be taking these challenges and difficulties with, poise. I feel like you're going to be very mature in the approach that you take this, or you take. And I feel like with the balance card coming up also in a very strong position, that you will start to see how things really flow with one another, how things are being put together, how all of the pieces of the puzzle are coming together to make, that perfect picture, or how all of the cogwheels work. And you can kind of step back and see that apparatus, or whatever you want to call it, work as a whole. And I feel like this is really a time for you Virgo risings to experience and acknowledge that. And it's good to see that the Eight of Vessels rebirth card is coming up as well. Also, really signifying the planet Pluto with transformation and rebirth, talking about that story arc of death of one thing and transforming and rebirthing in a new thing. And I feel like this is really talking about and illuminating the importance of this strong planet being in your sixth house for Virgo risings. So really like that here. And the Eight of Vessels Rebirth card is perhaps one of my favorite cards here in the Wildwood Tarot, because it talks about the universe. Really, you can kind of see, this is how I like to think of it, pouring this knowledge and wisdom into your knowledge base, your pool here. And you're taking all of that, or excuse me, I said that wrong. All of this, this waterfall coming into this knowledge or this pool here, to me, represents the past experiences and things that you have learned, really building up your wisdom and your knowledge base. And the universe here, you can see, is giving you this overflowing cups here into this new river, which is the river that you're creating and the new pathway forward. And it's giving you extra knowledge, extra experiences to really shape the pathway forward. So I really like, again, the Eight of Vessels Rebirth card. So really like this here for you Virgo risings with that. Oh, and actually, let me, before I do that, oh yeah, the Archer. So you have the Archer coming up on the bottom of the deck here for you. And the Archer is really this, or represents the ability for you to identify your target. And, with dedication and aim here, you're able to hit those targets, the goals that you've set yourself forward. The other thing too about the Archer is that in the back, they're carrying this quiver full of arrows, and it's the quiver of ideas and creativity is what that represents. So you have a lot of ideas, creative endeavors here that you really are working towards. So really do like that for, again, you Virgo risings. So really good reading for you. Next, we're going to go into the seventh house, which is the house that represents relationships, partnerships, marriage, the other. And a lot of these significations, for the houses, I am using the traditional Hellenistic significations. There's a lot of information out there as well for what those represent. But again, so this will be for the seventh house, Pluto being in Aquarius in your seventh house, which would be for the signs of, or for the rising sign of Leo. All right. So for the rising sign of Leo, you do have the World Tree, the King of Vessels Heron, the Page of Arrows Wren, the Nine of Vessels Generosity, and the Five of Stones Endurance. So I feel for many of you Leo risings, there has been kind of a closing of a chapter here. With the World Tree, it talks about going through the hero's journey, right? The wanderer's journey, as it is in the Wildwood Tarot. And you've experienced all of the major arcanas, and you have come to the end of this story arc. And I feel that for many of you, perhaps maybe it is kind of a stepping stone or a milestone in an established relationship here, where perhaps maybe now is the time for you folks to think about marriage or think about what it means to be in this partnership, right? I feel that for Leo rising, the world tree is coming up because it is the ending of one and the beginning of another. I do feel like for many of you that it definitely is something positive here. And there are other kind of senses that I'm feeling that perhaps maybe this is also in regards to an ending of a relationship for some of you Leo risings, and how you're going to endure, right, the storm or the difficulties, which is why I feel the Five of Stones endurance card is coming up. You can kind of see that in the background there's lightning and looks like a pretty windy, terrible storm. However, you have this person here that is kind of protected by the elements in the with this cave, and they also have kind of a fire to keep them warm here. And I feel that is really highlighting the importance of understanding that the storm will pass and things will eventually calm down and become better. There will be sun and brightness and happiness here in the future, right? And I feel like perhaps for some of you it may be a little bit of a difficult time here, but in the end things will definitely heal and work out in perhaps a better way for you that maybe in the time you might not be necessarily kind of thinking of. You also do have the King of Vessels Heron and the Page of Arrows Wren. So I do feel that these experiences here with your seventh house is allowing you to really learn from these situations to make you a much stronger individual here. The Page of Arrows Wren talks about learning and being observant and patient as well, and kind of utilizing smarter approaches, kind of that work smarter, not harder kind of deal. And the Page of Vessels Heron card, I feel, is talking about that even though it may be perhaps difficult or challenging times right now for you, you are taking this in a very mature, methodical approach. Now, even if it isn't difficult, maybe if it is talking about kind of like that next step in your relationship or partnership, whatever the case may be, I feel that you have learned and matured as, as a unit to be able to take these next steps. You have perhaps endured, right, some difficulties and some challenges. And now you're kind of leading towards this ultimate happiness and fulfillment and joy with the Nine of Vessels generosity card coming up. And I feel like this is the universe really sharing with you a lot of positivity in regards to your relationship in your partnerships here, Leo. So really do like that as well. On the bottom, look at that. You have the Wanderer. So again, definitely that theme of one story arc closing and another beginning here is showing up really strong here for you Leo risings. So I feel that the universe is providing you the energy you need to really make this time, this experience, a very meaningful one for you and your partner relationship, whatever the case may be that you're involved with. So really like that. Now moving on to the 8th house. The 8th house can represent death, inheritance, or other possessions. So this would be for the sign of Cancer rising, I should say. So let's go ahead and see what is in store for Cancer rising. All right, so you do have the Queen of Vessels Salmon, the Five of Arrows Frustration, the Archer, the Mirror, and the Two of Bows decision. All right. So if we're talking kind of like point blank of the significations of the eighth house, talking about death, inheritance, other possessions, there definitely could be, a family member of you, Cancer Rising, where you have to really make decisions on the outcomes. Like, I mean, you never want to talk about death and whatnot. It is a fact of life that everyone will pass away. And perhaps maybe the individual that does happen to pass away for you had a really strong, meaningful impact in your life. And now it's perhaps you're feeling frustrated and, it's a challenging time for you where you have to make decisions on what's the best way forward here, right? There's always, I know, conflict when it comes to inheritance. So perhaps there is going to be some difficulties here, in a sense, or in regards to that. The other thing too could be perhaps maybe if you are in a marriage or in a relationship, your significant other's inheritance or their possessions or income or whatnot might be changed or affected, where it may cause some frustrations, and difficult decisions perhaps need to be made. But I do feel here that this is actually going to make you recognize and realize the importance of how you or where you play in this story. You do have the Queen of Vessels Salmon card, which the biggest signification to me with the Queen of Vessels Salmon card is about self-sacrifice. And perhaps this is the message that you need to hear, Cancer, in regards to what is it that you can do to help the situation, right? What is it that you're able to self-sacrifice to make the situation better? And I feel like there's going to be a lot of reflection, analysis, contemplation here for you during this time because of perhaps how significant this change will be. But what I will say is if you're able to put in if you're dedicated to the situation, to the cause, if you're willing to sacrifice whatever it is, for example, maybe you wanted a certain car or whatever the case may be, putting that on the back burner, right, for figuring out your current situation. Maybe, again, just an example, could be something in regards to self-sacrifice of patience, not having instant gratification, and really trying to figure out the best approach for the current situation. And I feel if you do that here, the Archer is, again, showing up in a really strong position, which you're going to be able to hit your goal, hit your target. Taking like perhaps maybe a different approach here or thinking outside of the box may prove beneficial here for you, Cancer Rising, in a sense that these are methods or strategies that you can use to help you overcome those difficulties and get you into a much stronger position. So that's kind of what I'm getting here with that as well. And then you also have the Stag on the bottom of the deck, and the Stag talks about that cause and effect, right? Do you go for the instant gratification and then know down the line that things are perhaps not going to be as optimal as you wished? Or do you delay your instant gratification? So show some restraint, dedicate yourself to whatever this situation is to help, right? Down the pathway, down the line, the Stag represents your self-sacrifice or your the causes that you have done or the actions that you have done historically, how those translate into the future. And I feel, again, if you draw upon the Queen of Vessels salmon energy and the mirror energy, that down the line you will be able to achieve and get whatever it is that perhaps you're looking for. But you need to work your way through this difficult time here. So really like that here for you, Cancer Rising. All right, so we're going to be moving on to the ninth house. The ninth house talks about higher learning, travel, like foreign travel, foreign things, also religion as well. So kind of looking in that aspect for the rising sign of Gemini. So Gemini rising is what we'll be looking at here. And again, with Pluto and Aquarius for Gemini rising, that will be in the ninth house. So let's go ahead and see what perhaps awaits Gemini rising. So we do have the Eight of Bows Hearthfire, the Ten of Bows Responsibility, the Wanderer, the Seven of Bows Clearance, and the Green Woman. Really good cards here for Gemini rising. I do feel that for many of you, you will be perhaps traveling and going, or the importance of far distant or foreign travel is going to kind of bubble up for you Gemini risings. The other thing too, I do feel is for many of you, I feel like even though the ninth house isn't necessarily signifying a community, I do feel that type of energy coming in to play, especially with the Eight of Bows Hearthfire coming through, the Ten of Bows Responsibility coming through, and then the Green Woman as well. These three cards here to me are really signifying the importance of community for you at this time. And I feel that it could perhaps be in regards to a religious community that you are a part of here, Gemini. Maybe perhaps you are going to be taking on a different responsibility here for that. And I feel that it's going to be drawing you closer to this community, this family, that perhaps that is an extension, right, of your immediate family here. I also do feel that because it talks, the ninth house represents higher learning or higher education. Perhaps many of you are recognizing the importance of higher education. And it doesn't necessarily have to be college or university. It could definitely be a trade school and kind of learning your craft, if you will, and the importance of that in your life right now. I do feel that many of you see clearly what it is that you need to do, what your responsibility is at this time. So I really like that here. And I feel for many of you that this is going to be a new beginning for Gemini rising. The Wanderer talks about new beginnings and really taking that leap of faith here. And perhaps maybe you might not necessarily feel 100% committed to it, but I do feel that the universe will be kind of like dropping these little hints for you for you to understand and recognize that this is perhaps the way forward. This is perhaps the pathway that it wants you to take here. So again, really, important or large significations of new beginnings here for you, Gemini Rising, that could relate to higher learning, religion, foreign travel, right? So really, really interesting things here for you. You also do have the wheel. So the wheel talks about basically kind of threading your own destiny, and this tapestry here, even though it's not completely finished, it represents your ability to put your own mark, to make your own mark on your life, or in the world, right? So I do feel like this is definitely a time for you to shape your destiny, your outlook in the future, and very important here for many of you Gemini Rising. So really like that here for you. So pretty neat for that. And then moving on from the 9th house, we will be moving to the 10th house, which talks about career, work, what you're, and again, we talked about work in the 6th house, but again, it's more of career, your actions, what you're known for, your reputation, kind of like your public life. So if you kind of look at the wheel of the houses, the 10th house is opposite to the 4th house. The 4th house being kind of the family, home, private life, and the 10th house now being kind of the outward, your career, your reputation, the public life. So if you have Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius in your 10th house, that would be Taurus Rising. So it's not if you have Pluto in Aquarius, excuse me. Pluto is in Aquarius in the 10th house. That would be for Taurus Rising. So let's go ahead and see what we have for Taurus Rising. You do have the Knight of Stones horse, 7 of Stones healing, Queen of Vessels salmon, King of Stones wolf, and the 5 of bows empowerment. So I feel like there's kind of a mixture here going on for Taurus Rising, where we have perhaps some of you that are very dedicated to what it is that you're trying to accomplish in your career life, in your public life, your reputation, with the Knight of Stones horse coming through, talking about the stamina and the ability to really finish the race, finish that track that you were on. Dedication, again, I feel is really important coming through. I feel like a lot of self-sacrifice is happening here for many of you Taurus Risings, with the Queen of Vessels salmon coming through. And I feel that for Taurus Rising, I feel like your community is also going to be extremely important, or not necessarily your community, but your really close connections and your close family members or business partners, whatnot, are going to play a significant role here with the King of Stones wolf coming up. As you know, wolves, they travel in packs, they learn from one another, and I feel this showing up here is going to really portray the importance of those connections here for you Taurus Rising. Now, maybe there's perhaps with some of with your public life, your career, maybe there's a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but maybe there are some broken bridges here or burnt bridges that perhaps need some repairing and some healing, which I feel is why the 7 of Stones is showing up here for you. So maybe there are some connections that you have to mend here. And I do feel like this is why the Queen of Vessels Salmon card is coming up perhaps in between these two, because it is on your part here, Taurus, that you need to take the initiative to kind of extend that olive branch here to really mend, those relationships. I also do feel that the Five of Bows empowerment card is showing up because you do feel like you are in a position of power here, especially with Pluto being the planet of power and intensity now in your 10th house. I do feel that that type of energy is really kind of being harnessed by Taurus and really kind of showcasing your capabilities, what you're able to do, and really what your perhaps future career would look like. And again, I do feel the importance of rekindling those connections, rebuilding those bridges is going to be a really important piece of this journey of yours for Taurus Rising. So looking at the bottom of the deck, you do have the mirror. So many signs have been getting the mirror, and I do feel that you will recognize here, Taurus, the importance of connecting with others and really identifying perhaps where you may have come short, and maybe a little bit of that stubbornness type of Taurus characteristic. But I feel like you're able to really overcome that and be able to showcase what it is that you're capable of doing and how you're able to make amends here to move forward. So really do like that here for you, Taurus risings. So the next house is going to be the 11th house, which the 11th house represents community, friends, hopes, dreams, alliances as well. So with Pluto in Aquarius in the 11th house, that would be Aries rising. So let's go ahead and see what we have for Aries rising. So you do have the Three of Arrows jealousy, the Seer, Seven of Vessels mourning, the Mirror, and the King of Arrows Kingfisher. So the immediate thing that comes to mind for many Aries rising is a lot of these cards have an underlying signification of clarity or being able to see, where the shortcomings are, the pathway forward. And I feel that for many Aries rising, it is going to be kind of an important time for you to really identify who, if it's talking about groups and friends and community, which community groups, friends are important to you, and which of those are perhaps maybe a distraction or not really giving you the satisfaction or perhaps even the fulfillment or the nourishment that you're looking for at this time. So I do feel like it's going to be almost, I kind of envision kind of a dwindling down of your groups and connections here, to be able to really harness and pinpoint those that are true to you. And I feel like that's what Pluto in Aquarius in the 11th house for Aries rising right now is trying to showcase. And it's kind of difficult right now because perhaps maybe you don't necessarily see it clearly, right? There's going to be a lot of difficulties that are coming up through you, that are happening here for you Aries rising. Maybe there are groups or friends that perhaps are jealous of you. Or perhaps maybe it could be the opposite, right? Of you being jealous of a group of friends or something like that, or a community. Or even looking at other people or comparing yourself to other individuals. Like, why can't you be like them, right? And I do feel that these two cards, the Three of Arrows, jealousy, and the Seven of Vessels, mourning, is really showcasing the importance of forgiveness and letting things pass. Um, you know, let it go. I know it's easier said than done. And if you're able to let things go, especially on the Seven of Vessels mourning card, let that pass through, because in the future there is a new beginning with the sunrise showing up in the background of this card, which talks about a rebirth, essentially a new beginning. And it might be difficult right now for you to be able to see that, but I feel that's why the Kingfisher, or the King of Arrows Kingfisher, and the Seer are showing up. It's because they are giving you the energies to be able to see clearly the direction that you should be going. And there's a lot of perhaps self-reflection going on here for you, Aries rising, again talking about what is it that's important in these groups, or this community of yours, or even again just looking at yourself, and what is it that you are looking for that will bring you satisfaction, fulfillment, without attaching yourself or comparing yourself to others. And I feel that's the message really kind of coming in strongly here for you, Aries rising. And that's the power and beauty, in a sense, of Pluto being in your 11th house, of really transforming your outlook on what community, what friends are true and will help you become a much better, stronger individual, and where are the ones that are perhaps preventing you from getting to that place. Looking at the bottom, you do have the Two of Vessels attraction card. So again, talking about relationships, right? Your community, your relationships. And I feel like it's really that underlying tone of importance of really trying to figure out the true communities, friends, relationships that will make you a much stronger and fulfilled individual. So really like that here for Aries rising. Now, last but not least, we are going to be moving into the 12th house. The 12th house represents, I like to think of it as the unknown, the subconscious, intuition to some extent, but with the Hellenistic significations, it does represent illness, sickness, loss, and seclusion. So perhaps maybe not the most heartwarming of words to describe it. But let's go ahead and see what that may look like for Pisces rising, which would have Aquarius, or Pluto and Aquarius, in your 12th house. All right, let's just a couple shuffles here. All right. So for Pisces rising, you do have the Sun of Life, the Page of Vessels Otter. Those two wanted to come out. The Journey and the Archer. The Three of Bows Fulfillment, and the Seven of Vessels Mourning card. So many people have had, or many signs have had, the Seven of Vessels Mourning show up, as well as the Archer and the Page of Vessels. So could definitely be talking about collective type of energy here, but kind of looking at this this spread here, I really like it, because I do feel that it really is talking about a very transformative time for Pisces rising. You do have the journey, which is synonymous to the death card, which to some extent can relate to the planet Pluto in regards to transformation, removing things that perhaps haven't necessarily worked for you, stripping away the old so that way you can bring in the new. Again, change and transformation also are very strong significations for the journey card. So I do feel that for Pisces rising, there is going to be a lot of perhaps kind of like inner work, things of that nature that will have a lot of contemplation, playing as a big major factor for you during this time. The Page of Vessels Otter talks about contemplating things with a considerate heart, devotion, and kind of that conflict resolution as well. So I feel like all of this is kind of internal, really. The 12th house to me really represents kind of the internal dialogue that people have here. And I feel that a lot of that is going to be taking place here for many Pisces risings. And I feel like this inner dialogue is going to really kind of help showcase what it is that brings you a lot of happiness, joy, and fulfillment, right? The Sun of Life talks about ultimate happiness and joy, and really kind of that warmth of life and new beginnings. And I feel that is really going to be a strong factor for many Pisces rising during this particular time. And it may seem a little bit difficult here because you do have the journey card, but I feel the journey card is really talking about how these changes for you, Pisces rising, will make you a stronger individual. And perhaps this could also relate to your how you see yourself in perhaps in a goal setting or methodical way, like how you approach things, how you approach problems, how you approach challenges. And it could be about a rethinking of how you do take these approaches, because perhaps maybe historically how you've dealt with issues hasn't necessarily been the most beneficial here for you. And through those experiences, you have acknowledged that it is time for maybe a different way to do things. And I feel, again, that's kind of what the Seven of Vessels morning card is indicating as well, of really letting things that no longer have served you pass and looking towards the new beginning, looking towards that sunrise that will make you a stronger individual. And I feel like, even though it perhaps may feel like a dark time here for you, Pisces rising, the dedication and the strength that the inner strength that you harness will bring a lot of fulfillment here for you. And I feel like this individual on the Three of Bows fulfillment card represents someone that is there to help you or to guide you in your life. And maybe this is someone that's foundational to you, someone that, like a mentor that you look up to. And I feel that's who this card is representing. And perhaps they are the people or the individual that will help you through perhaps these difficult times. So really like that here as well. And you also do have the Moon on Water card. So we talked about, again, to me, the 12th house representing intuition, and the unknown. The Moon on Water can represent unknowns, can represent intuitive feelings. You do have 2 full moons here as well showing up. So I do feel the significations of what the moon represent, of sometimes, deep emotions, kind of sometimes blurry vision, not blurry vision, but kind of like things that are difficult to comprehend and see clearly, may play a factor in it in this time. But the moon also talks about nourishment and that nurturing type of nature. And I feel that it really is now kind of almost like a soul nourishment for you, Pisces rising. And I feel like it's going to really, if you're able to tap into the moon's energy here, or the significations of that, a lot of happiness, fulfillment, and joy will come about. So that is it for all the 12 signs here. So thank you so much for joining me. If you did last throughout the entire video, thank you so much. If you didn't, that's okay. You know, definitely want to make sure you're listening to your respective rising sign again. But hopefully you have enjoyed this. And, you know, again, we're going to be seeing Pluto in Aquarius just for a few months for now. And then it's going to go back into Capricorn. But I feel like this few months of Pluto in Aquarius is going to give us a bigger picture, or a preview, I should say, of what the story arcs will look like for your respective rising sign. So again, thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, malama pono and ahui ho.